Hello, everyone. My name is Tobi.
And I'm Temi.
And this is Totally on Brand.
Hi, Tobes.
Hi, Temi. How are you? Hi, baby.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good.
How
It's
is it
another
doing?
episode.
It is.
I like your hair.
Thanks, babes. I
Pretty.
copied you.
Mm.
I decided to do braids. My hair's still falling out, my love.
Postpartum. Girl, don't worry. You're almost out of the woods.
How long does it last for?
Like 18 months.
Ugh.
You're almost there.
Okay, fine.
Okay. I know you're going to love today's topic. We're talking about consumer behavior. We're specifically focusing on the decision-making unit. We're going to talk so much about this. You guys are going to love this episode.
Yep. And you know, the funny thing is, this topic is not just for marketers.
Mhm.
What makes it so exciting is I've always, so this was one of my favorite topics. I actually even did part of it for my dissertation.
What'd you get?
97%.
Nothing less.
No,
Come on.
I actually had one of the highest
Come
scores
on.
of dissertation. Come on.
What else do you expect? Come on.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Okay, no. But I love this topic, especially because I find that I have used it a lot for my business as well. One of the reasons I like this topic is if you ever see people that know their onions, especially when it comes to targeting, like you have a product, you need it to get to the right person, not just the right person, the person who wants it, who is paying for it, who is thinking about it, who needs to use it. And that's why I really like this. And hopefully by the time we're done, people will actually understand how important this is to success of anything they do, business, career, whatever.
Amazing. And I think that it will definitely help you to sell your products or your service. So please let's pay attention to this one. So let's start at the very beginning. What is consumer behavior? Which is like, what we're talking about. It's the overarching theme of today's episode. I love consumers. They're like, to me, it's like an experiment, So consumer behavior is really just the psychology of shopping, right? Why do people buy what they buy? Why do you buy what you buy? Why do you make your choices? What influences them? And also, how do you connect to brands? So for me, that's why consumer behavior is very, very interesting, because without consumers, you cannot sell your product or your service.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because consumer behavior is huge. It's so layered. And I'm glad we're talking about this because I reckon throughout our pod journey, we're going to actually dissect so many layers of it. It's one thing to bring a product or an idea to life. It's another thing for people to actually procure that product. And it's easy to target. It's a lot more complicated to understand your decision-making unit. Temi, thank you so much for defining that. The stages a consumer goes through to buy a product or determine this is a service they're going to consume is actually so layered. And I always say that I want people to really understand the depths of things because that's where success lies. A lot of times it's easy. People just say, I'm targeting this target market and they're definitely going to buy my product. And it makes me smile because I'm like, it's actually a lot more layered than that. Like there's a lot of factors that goes into someone actually buying that product. Do you remember one time you were one time you were working on the client when my agency and your agency, and we partnered on a client work, and we're doing one of our exercises trying to get the sales objectives of what we want the client to do, and you pulled up this 5 stages of consumer behavior and you made us kind of work through it and said that if we go through this, then we can guarantee we have touched or understood this client's consumer behavior. Do you want to share with...
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that, you understand the stages. Like if you're trying to make a decision, there is a process that most people go through but are not really aware that they go through it. And we were talking about it, and I guess we can also have it on the screen as we're talking about it right now, because it's really, really interesting, because once you're aware, you can key into it and then you can start tailoring your strategies and different things.
I found it amazing because I didn't even know I went through those stages when I was buying something. Yeah.
So there is obviously the first stage, which is where you recognize what the problem is. This is where you're like you're defining your need. Then most people, I love research. Most people tend to do an information search. So this is where you now start thinking about it. You now start searching, Googling, asking people, looking for references, all of that. Then there is the evaluation of alternatives. Okay, I want a phone, but do I need a Samsung? Do I need an iPhone? What do I need? So you're basically evaluating the alternatives. Then the purchase decision, I've decided to buy this. I'm ready. I've gone through this process. I'm now ready to buy. And then, of course, the post purchase behavior, which honestly, as a very serious marketer, you have to consider very strongly because it's one thing for your customer to buy your product or service, but do they like it after they've bought it?
That's another,
So that's part of
yes.
the process. It doesn't end at the buy. It
Yes,
doesn't end
that's
at the buy,
actually
guys.
so
Yeah.
true.
Because most people who don't do effective, maybe marketing, would think it ends at the buy.
Do you know what's also so interesting? I'm so glad you said that because that's why I love this topic so much. Even sometimes the buyer is not the person that is going to consume the product.
Mm-hmm.
So if your yeah, okay, this is interesting. I'm so glad you redefined that because that actually makes me remember again. To business owners out there, or if you work for a particular brand or product, always remember this consumer behavior, which is the overarching topic, and there are concepts like decision making units, which are tucked under it. To understand your consumers and how they buy, you first, I think, in my opinion, you first need to understand the different layers of how that decision to buy has come to happen. I would let Temi kind of take you through the different layers or people that are involved in the decision making unit, because when you understand this, I don't want to sound like a magician, but I can almost guarantee your business will do very well. If it's you, Timmy,
Thank you.
you're going to be the magician here.
I was
Tell
like,
them what
wow,
they need to do
pressure,
to make magic
pressure.
happen.
So decision making units, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, people have roles,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's important to understand every role when you are marketing or targeting or whatever, tailoring your business or your service. So we have the initiator.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, guys, this is an actual theory. You can go and do your own research about it after the fact, but this is a theory, which is why they're very specifically titled roles. So the initiator is the person who identifies the need. You initiate the decision making. The influencer is the one who has opinions and recommendations. So the influencer and the initiator are going to, connect quite a bit. Then there is the decider. The decider is a person with the final say. There is the buyer, who is distinct from the decider, because the person deciding to buy does not have to be the person to buy, right?
Say that again.
The person deciding to buy is not the person swiping their card. Doesn't always have to be the person swiping
That
their
makes
card.
so much sense. Yeah, I like that. So
And
it
then there's
works.
the
So sometimes I
user.
think of something my husband can buy it.
Yes, of course.
Works
I decided it, so but you're going to spend your own money. There's the user, the person who uses the product. So, for example, you're buying a gift. You're not the user. There's another user.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
there is the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper is very important for several reasons because they control the flow of the information. They can
Yeah.
also have a say in, how this whole process actually
Yeah.
happens from start to finish. So that's
Yeah.
the gatekeeper.
What I like. I like that. So there's 6 rows here.
Yes, there are.
I like that at any point each row can cross over.
Yeah.
Number one, multiple people can occupy different roles, and one person can also kind of go through all the roles.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
also possible that only one person does this whole process as well. Is that possible?
I think there has to be an influencer.
Always.
Always. But I think one person can be initiator, decider, buyer, user, and gatekeeper.
And do you think the influencer is always external?
No. When you say external, you mean like a different person or?
No, like what factor would influence the influencer?
I think the influencer can be a person or it can even be. Do you think. Okay, this is a weird one.
No,
Do you think
please.
a memory can be an influencer? Like something you like maybe you're looking back, you're taking stock of maybe decisions you've made about the past.
Yeah, I like that. I wonder if can a memory be an influencer? I think it can. I think it can. I wonder if that fits into consumer behavior more, into the steps. So if we say a memory, I wonder if that sits in the problem recognition. So and then another question I have for you with the decision making unit, is it focused around people?
Not always.
Because I wondered that as well. Because I wondered if with the decision making unit, it's always somebody has to influence something or someone has to do something. Do you see what I mean? Because if you see all the roles, the initiator has to be someone, the influencer is someone, the decider is someone, the buyer is someone. So I wonder, in context of this, consumer behavior is the theory, is the overarching, like,
could something influence you? I think something can influence you. For example, like global warming. This is a very like broad example, but global warming can influence you to buy something that purifies the water in your house, or you know,
perfect,
right?
When global warming influences you, it then encourages you to be an initiator.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, we're getting into it.
Yeah. So that means for someone to even be an initiator and influencer, there has to be a precursor to lead to that. Like there's something. So we are identifying that something leads to that, I guess, is a thought.
Yeah, it is something to think about. You see, it's very layered, this theory. Now, that's the beauty about theories, right? Like you can define them and adapt them to specific scenarios.
Let's practicalize it. What was the last purchase in your house?
TV.
You guys just bought a new TV in this economy.
I mean, girl, we needed... Okay, no, actually, you see, I like that we're talking about it practically, because let's go through the
reasons.
Let's go through the decision-making units, guys.
Fair enough. Okay. So you guys bought a TV recently.
Yes.
Okay.
I would
Why?
say... Okay, so we wanted a larger TV. We wanted a larger TV. The influence, to a certain degree, were my kids, right?
How old are they now?
They're 9. Oh, she's okay, almost 9 and 4.
Okay, I see the need for the bigger TV.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone now has opinions.
Everybody
in the house.
has opinions, and they watch TV and they want to do things like movie nights on Fridays. And I'm like, okay, let's just get a bigger TV.
Fair enough. Okay.
I would say I was the initiator, because I was the one that went to my husband to say, can we buy a new TV?
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so the influencers were my kids. The decider was also me. No. The decider was Biola, my husband.
Okay.
Yes, because obviously I brought forth the problem. I'd said, okay, this is what we need.
So you initiated.
I initiated it, but then he made the decision.
Fantastic. The kids influenced it.
Yes.
You initiated it. He decided.
And then he bought it.
Oh, wow. And then he's the buyer.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And then the user are the girls.
Yes.
And then who is the gatekeeper?
Me, because I was like, don't buy that one. It's too expensive. Buy the other one.
This is so interesting. Let's run this back. Okay. So family needs new TV.
Yes.
Okay. Decision-making unit. It would have been straightforward. Consumer behavior says we have a problem. You've identified the problem. Great. Now, the kids have influenced it. You have initiated it. Your husband has decided.
And bought it.
Your husband has bought it.
Yeah.
You are
gatekeeping
it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, we have this decision-making unit. What should the TV manufacturers, who should they be marketing to? You, your husband, or the children?
That is a fantastic question. Because something like a TV now, for example, right? A TV is one of those products that you can market to anybody in this decision-making unit.
Yeah.
Simply because a TV does different things for different people, but at its core, it's really just to be watched, right? So now let me give you an example of what TV makers can do. So if a brand is marketing this 100-inch...
It's like Samsung.
Yes, Samsung is marketing a 100-inch TV screen. They can market to the decider and the buyer, in this case, Biola, by putting football on the screen when you walk into the store.
Right.
And marketing it as the best TV to watch football on. And marketing it during football season.
Perfect.
There are also seasonal,
Perfect.
So football season there. They've marketed to the decider and the buyer. Now me.
So they understand that the buyer in the equation, they need to understand what the buyer likes.
Exactly.
And the decider, fantastic. So that's his marketing. What about yours?
So for TVs, I would say they should focus on two people, the initiator and the decider/buyer, because typically they tend to be the same person, right? Because a TV is a big purchase.
Yeah.
So the person buying it has to be like, Then another way they can market to me, the initiator is to have ads that are tailored around families.
Wow.
Family come together for movie nights.
And it'll be warming your heart.
And I'll be like,
we need a big TV.
Meanwhile, small TV, big TV is not the same. Anyway, yes, if the TV is bigger, then the kids can have movie nights, and then you can, I don't know. But so they're
Yes.
tailoring their marketing to both the initiator and the buyer
Even the
slash
kind of
decider.
advertising campaign they would do, they
Yes.
have to, when they are marketing that TV, the campaign should actually be revolved around the family.
Yeah.
So when she watches that campaign, she's
Mhm.
like, I want that exact feeling.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense.
Honestly, you could spend hours talking about this thing.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that because what this is essentially saying, if you're following, is if you have a brand or a product, understand who your decision making unit participants are, tailor your marketing, your communication, your positioning to the key buyers, deciders there. And you as a brand can decide which one is important to you. Do you want to market to the influencer and initiator? Do you want to market to the decider? Do you want to market to the buyer? Do you want to market to the user? You can also tailor a campaign or a marketing initiative, or your objectives can actually be revolved around all of them. But I guess the key here is knowing who your decision making unit is, so that everything you do is tailored accurately.
Exactly.
I'm excited. I like this topic.
And one more thing is, I would also say that it's important as a brand owner to understand cycles and seasons, which means that in Christmas, the decision making unit for something can change drastically. Right? You know, we talked about holidays and consumer. Yeah.
Yes.
So in Christmas, the decision making unit is different. In summer, the decision making unit is different. So just always understand what you need to do and how you need to tailor it.
Do you know, even thinking about this, just even if we pick a random example, say car, like the initiator is different. Like it could be the father in the home that decides we want a new car. Then if I even put myself in the equation, if we want a new car now, I'm really influenced by size and price. My husband might be influenced by aesthetics. I don't really know cars. I borderline don't even care for cars. The only thing I know I like is a vintage car.
Okay.
But that's aesthetics. But in terms of functionality, it would actually, the manufacturers are better off marketing the car to him. But if it's a family car, they're better off marketing it to me.
Yeah, to me, exactly. So I was going to say, it depends on the type of car.
This is very layered.
It is very layered, because a sports car manufacturer would rarely target a woman. Like, they would rarely market to a woman.
That is so true.
Yeah, but a minivan or an SUV can very much, so it depends on the type of car. But that's exactly what we're saying. If you are a brand that creates something that is tailored, that men will enjoy, then you know exactly who you're marketing to, your decision maker.
In fact, you know what? All of this actually now brings everything home for me. The other day driving, I was asking myself, why is Toyota such a big brand in Nigeria? And I didn't have the answer because I don't know cars. And in asking someone, they actually broke it down to me in terms of the car parts, the sizes as well of the car. A lot of people tend to use it like your Highlanders, your Prados, family cars, modern one kids, So it's so interesting because now I can see how a lot of brands actually apply the decision-making unit in their marketing and their layered conversation.
Yeah.
So now that we've covered the different roles in the DMU, let's talk about something very important. How to figure out who is in your DMU. Because a lot of people can get stuck and you feel like you have the best product in the world, but you still don't actually understand how you're supposed to position it, who is going to buy it, who is going to influence it, who is going to talk about it. If you notice some products, it takes someone speaking about it and everyone else adopts it. So another thing I realize now as well, brands are sometimes even marketing to influencers. The influencers then dispense the information to other parts of the decision-making unit. So sometimes your decision-making unit is not always around you. They're not always people you know. It could also be external factors. So I don't know. Yeah, it's like you must know this before you can actually like market or position your product. I mean, you don't ever like have a birthday party and not throw out invites, right? So for you to have a brand, I think it's very important you actually know who your consumer behavior are, and you can only find that out by understanding the decision-making unit.
That is such a good analogy, the party and the invites one. Because that's what you're doing. It's a waste of time, So it's basically what we're saying to you, the brand owner. Okay, so if we just simplify this now into target audience, but really, like you said, it's about finding who in the DMU is for your product or service. But let's say targeting, right, which is what we tend to call it. How do you find the right target audience, and how do you understand key things about them? Because you have to understand who you are targeting. You have to understand who is going to be utilizing or adopting your product or your service. So the first thing, you ready?
I am T.
The first thing is understanding your product's core value. Problem, solution, simple. That's it. That is essentially what a brand is for
Ask
me.
yourself, who would buy this?
Exactly.
Would somebody buy
What
this?
problem are you solving? Do you understand? So that is understanding the core value of.
So can we agree that the start of anything buying is first understanding? Is there a problem this product or service
What
is
need
solving?
do I meet?
Solving.
Do
Okay.
you understand? Customer profiles. Oh God, girl, I can't tell you how many customer profiles I have seen. Just like, you know, when you're doing a strategy for a brand and you see the customer profile, that phrase is just
It's one of my fun things to do.
like segmenting and targeting.
I think it makes me, personally for me, my journey of, setting up businesses and owning businesses is the first point I realized I can do this.
Yes.
It will be successful.
Yes.
The moment I can tell you who is going to buy it,
Yes.
who is going to use it, and who is going to talk about it, my chest finally
You're a little bit
rests.
relaxed.
Yes.
And the thing is, for me, like I said, it's almost like, is experiment the right word? Or it's like, for me, it's almost a game, because you have to research to find out who these people are. You have to really get into the nitty gritty, understand what motivates them, you know?
And the clearer you are on this particular point, I can't even explain it. Like everything kind of
Falls
fits
into place,
everything fits into
Yeah.
place. You know exactly how much you need to start the business.
Yeah.
You know exactly how you're going to position your campaigns. You
Yeah.
know where you're going to find them.
Yeah.
And you're less nervous about competition as well.
Yeah, because you're clear.
You know who.
Yeah,
and you already identified. Yes, that makes sense.
Also understanding their behaviors, what motivates them, what they like to do. Like you just mentioned a very important one, where they go. Where do you find them?
Where do you
Do you
find
understand?
them?
Where do you find them?
Yeah.
What do they love? What do they care about? Honestly, this is the most important thing you can do.
And this actually, I like this. And the third point we have here in identifying your decision-making unit is also identifying who influences the buying decision. One of the things that I do in my business, for example, is I ask myself, what is the consumer's journey path? What do I mean by that? I want to market a pen to a working professional. Now, I'm not going to put that pen in a supermarket because that working professional is essentially not going to walk into the supermarket to buy a pen. I need to figure out what his journey path is through the day and figure out how to position the pen in front of him. So customer profiles, you know how you explain it when you do it. You start asking yourself the questions. Who is this person? What do they like? What do they eat? Where do they eat? Where do they go to work out? Where do they sleep? How do they, I don't know, what's their journey when they go to work? What is their job type? Do they even write? Do they type? Because you go and start a pen business, then go and market it to somebody who actually hates writing. And you realize that you've actually completely missed your target market. So I feel like for me, when you really understand the consumer's journey, it will change a lot of things in your initial vision. When I started the restaurant, I thought a certain kind of people would be my target, and it really surprised me because it was the complete opposite that ended up being my target. So.
And then you learn, right? So you
You
adapt.
do,
Yeah,
and
you learn and you adapt, and then you start to
Yes.
tailor things for them. Like it's very apparent in a good restaurant that if they understand their customer, they start to tailor, like it's comfortable chairs, it's different. It's just
yes,
it's because you understand what people come to do.
When we actually started at the house, I made our chairs really low because I wanted to play on the way we Black people eat. Not a lot of us don't eat on the dining table or in high chairs and table. We actually are always on couches.
Like
we're
low.
leaning, we're folding our legs, and our food is always on our lap or on our trays. So that was what I played at in the beginning, and people loved it.
That is why I love the house.
Yes. Interestingly enough, I had to start changing because those same people who started with me started having back pains.
Oh.
Us started having more knee
Aging.
issues. We started growing up.
Oh gosh.
So they now needed more upright spaces. So I've recently done a slight renovation where we now have the low ones and we have
And the
some high ones.
I like it.
Just to kind of tackle that. And it was the decision, the people with the disposable income, my actual decision-making unit started getting affected. So I had to adjust to bring them right back in. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. And this is an industry that intrigues me. Obviously, it intrigues you now because you're a mom, but like children, kids, like motherhood, that industry is one of the most intriguing industries to ever play in.
Especially for decision-making
units.
Because the user has no money to spend on anything it needs.
Well, that
oh my God.
is an influencer. The user is the influence. So wait, do you know why I love? Let me tell you why I love motherhood industry, because it's layered. As a baby, yes, the user cannot do anything. The user is just there crying, doing nothing. But you market to the initiator, the decision maker, usually the buyer, because a lot of things we buy behind our husband's back. The husband will just come back and say, "Did she need another?"
She actually didn't.
I agree with you. They marketed to me. What can I say? They found me. So it's important to understand your decision-making unit, because if you're now an older child that can talk, like say my kids, they're watching YouTube and there's like a toy that they want. If you know that you're on YouTube that has been segmented for older kids, you know that your users now can talk, right? That's another thing. So you have to market to both them and the initiator.
Oh my God, yes.
So if it's a toy that my child wants, in the copy of the ad, you should probably still mention something about safety.
Right. So that it talks to you immediately.
Exactly.
Got it.
Also so they're marketing both to the child, but they're also marketing to me, the initiator, and probably the buyer
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the decider. So it's just really interesting.
This is great.
Yeah.
So just to summarize again, who is in the DMU for your products? We want you to learn how to target them. And the best way to do this, I'll recite the steps again. Understand your product's core value. Define your ideal customer profile. Identify who influences the buyer decision. This is key. Identify them. There might be multiple people. Write them down. So even if you have a target, it's fine. Still write this decision-making unit down, because as you go along and you keep building the businesses or the different marketing streams or positioning streams, you're still going to find ways to touch all of them. Find out where your audience hangs out so that you can put the product around them the right way. Remember what we discussed earlier. You cannot market a pen and put in a supermarket to workers who don't write. So just be careful in how you position things. And last but not least, test and refine the target. So remember when I gave you an example of how I started the restaurant and how I've had to change, it is from testing and refining my targeting, because while it's the same people, they have changed and I have to change with them. So I hope that's clear. So now here's where it gets interesting. There's so many factors that can affect your decision-making unit. Things that you also have to be aware of. What do I mean by that? People don't just wake up and act the way they act. While they inherently know who they are, there are a lot of environmental factors, social factors, cultural factors that actually affect how people procure things. I will hand over to Temi to kind of go deeper about this.
Okay, so you said social, psychological, cultural.
Yeah.
Okay, so
all those there's us, and then there's the things that have now shaped who we are and how we buy. You know how you were saying it's one thing to know the people, but how are you going to find them knowing fully well that they are shaped every day? They are constantly changing who they are as well.
Yeah. So culture, okay, let's even use culture as an example, because obviously we live in a very, culture-driven society in Nigeria. There's so many decisions that you don't make on your own, right? You may think that, so your parents or your extended family might be part of the decision-making unit. So buying a house, even how you raise your child, or what happens in the first few weeks after like the things you buy. So you have to take into account your culture. You understand? So that's one. Then of course there are also social factors. we have different motivations than people in the
We
Western world
do.
definitely have, like peer pressure. Like, my daughter, honestly, my daughter really wants a phone. She really wants a phone. And I've told her she has to wait till she's 10. And she's like, why? My friends have phones. And so that kind of expands the decision making unit as well, because her influences are really, really like, heavy on
Strong.
her. So
Yeah.
there's social factors as well, personal factors.
Yeah.
You just mentioned knees and back. We are going through that right now. What we used to like when we were in our 20s, we may not
Yeah.
necessarily, you cannot market to us the same way in our 30s, because our personal choices and our lifestyle has
It's
affected it.
so, no, I love this because when you mention the house part, I still can't even decide at this stage whether it's best to buy or rent. Like, it's still, and everyone, growing up, your parents, I don't know if you speak Yoruba, but my mom is very big on, oye kó ti ralé, and láti ralé, you must buy a house. And, I always say to her, I get that, but there's a decision making unit now. We have to kind of go through all the different factors of what this really means to us. Like, who is making that decision in the house? What kind of job do they have? Do they travel often? Is there a potential like you relocate? Do you even know what you want at this stage to kind of make such a big purchase? Like, all of these things is actually even something that I'm even going through personally. Like, do you buy? Do you rent? What's the best thing to do? And yeah, so it's quite interesting. I didn't even realize that I was even affected in my day to day in the like I didn't even realize that I was part of a decision making unit. So realtors and stuff will keep positioning and marketing, and they have to market to me.
Yeah.
Like, they'll be like, "Oh, you want to buy a house?" I'm like, "I don't know.
I don't know.
Do I know? I'm not sure."
That is true.
Yeah,
That is true. And
it's
that's
so
something
interesting.
that's something that I think people need to really understand, is these factors, there may be several happening at once. So you have
Yeah.
to kind of consider a lot of them, which is what makes, marketing fun, which is why I chose this profession. It's interesting.
So I know we've spoken a lot and stuff, but if we were to kind of summarize, why would you say understanding the decision making unit matters?
Okay. So it's very simple. In order for you to have an effective marketing strategy, and of course, you know that marketing is the way you communicate your brand and how you reach your buyers and everything. In order to be able to do this effectively, you actually need to understand the decision making unit. I mean, you said it very clearly in the beginning, and we've talked about it for the last, half hour or so. But if you don't understand the DMU, then you cannot tailor your marketing strategies. And of course, you have to tailor them. They have to be specific. You're telling everybody that your product is blue, but then you're telling everybody that your product is blue, but it's actually green. You have to tailor your marketing strategy to suit your product and meet the end user and the consumer.
Yeah.
So of course, that's why we're saying you need to spend a little time understanding their behavior. You also need to understand everybody in the DMU. It's crucial. Without it, you can't really go that far in marketing or selling your product or service.
So thanks for that. So I guess what Timmy is essentially saying is DMU is critical in targeting. Targeting is critical to selling. Selling is critical to your business being successful. You got that? It'll be on the screen. Another thing that what you said just reminded me of is, imagine I have a business and you have a business and I want to sell to you.
Yeah.
If I target to just you, the CEO, like, it ends there, right? If you don't adopt it, then we're stuck. But imagine the rest of your business is something they need and they have communicated to you. So it means that if I'm selling a HR, I don't know, software, I cannot just target the CEO. I target the CEO and the HR person, meaning when the HR person goes to the CEO, they're also presenting my business solution. And it also, so I completely get it. I love it. So ideally, what we're saying is that try and focus through the entire value chain of the decision making unit. Do not forget the initiator. They're very important. The influencer. I mean, we're in an influencing era at the moment, so you already understand the job of the influencer. Note, the influencer is not always the person who is selling to you or marketing to you. It could also be, you could be the influencer of your product. It could be a child for a diaper brand. It could be, the husband for a TV brand. It's not always someone who is actively marketing to you. Pay attention to your initiator, your influencer, your buyer, your decider, your gatekeepers.
And I think it's important to also note that you have to be sure that your product is not having a negative, so your marketing is not having a negative impact, because there are also negative influencers, right?
You're
So
right.
there is a way that people can influence in the opposite way that you want your product to
Yes.
achieve. So you also need to pay attention to who is actually playing each role
Decision
and in
making
what level
unit.
and what part. And I think we also listed them in an order that they don't necessarily always follow.
I like that.
Yes, we listed them in
Yes.
an order they don't
Yes.
always follow. So don't worry, it's something that as you spend more
Yes.
time, as you and I think it's also very important for every business to adopt this in their strategy from the beginning. So if
Yes.
you have like a strategy document that you should have, I'm looking at you, you need a strategy document. It should have your decision making units. It should be in a table. You should have it all listed out, who they
And where
potentially
the
could be,
people are.
where you
Yes.
find them, what they like to do, their
Yes.
psychographics, their demographics, and then also other little, notes that you can
Mm-hmm.
put to impact your strategy overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. It's time for our favorite part of the podcast, our Q&A segment. Excited. We have a few people have sent in some questions, so we're going to take some.
Okie dokes. Question 1. Can a single person take on multiple roles in the DMU?
Absolutely. A single person can take up multiple roles in a decision making unit. Absolutely. It doesn't always have to be that many people. It can be one person, it can be two people, it can be three people. Yes. What do you think, Tim?
Absolutely. You nailed it. It could be, and we even, in the beginning, we were even thinking one person could be everything.
Yes, sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes
yes.
one person can be everything. So it's just about understanding. Yeah,
Yes,
for
what
your
it
specific.
is.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Second question. How can marketeers figure out who the decision maker is in the DMU? I like this
I love
question.
it.
How can marketeers find out who the decision maker is in the DMU? Ooh.
So the most important thing that you need to do is understand your consumer. Right? We talked about it. We said you need to map them out.
Mm-hmm.
We gave you a list of how to do it. But essentially, guys, it's really understanding what they do, what they like, how they act, and what motivates them.
Yeah.
So once you know all these things, you're able to identify your decision makers and which one of them you should be marketing to primarily in
Yes.
which season.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. If you need a practical exercise, say, to do to determine this, I would say plot it. So take an Excel blank sheet, write your business, your core product or your core service on an axis on the left, and then write the different people that will use it in there. Then out of all those different people, you would kind of just know who would decide, start plotting and who would decide, who would buy, who would influence, who would pay for it, who would use it, who would keep it, and who would use it again. When you plot all of that, you would see very clearly. And what you would find is some people might have multiple roles, some people might have no role at all. That's fine. The key is that you just want to quickly plot it to see who your decision maker is. When you get that, obviously run it by your strategist or your marketer and then see if you guys can actually all agree that that is who the decision maker is. Don't forget, there might be multiple decision makers as well.
I also wanted to just add that remember, we didn't even talk about this a lot, but remember that you have, at least for me, when I'm talking to clients, I always say you have your primary targets and your
And your
secondary
secondary targets,
targets.
yes.
So you can do that for both. You can also do it for like, I always sometimes ask my clients, do you have a wish target? So, like, I know who you want to target. Is there somebody you want to target or you have a hope of targeting in the future? So, this writing it down, and yes, writing it down makes everything better. Like, just also make sure you know who your primary
Primary and
targets,
secondary.
secondary,
So maybe
yeah.
when they're plotting it on the
Yeah,
Excel, they do the primary,
primary
they
and
do
the
the
secondary,
secondary, and then
exactly.
they break it down. So maybe they
Exactly.
write all the headers for the decision making and then start plotting who they think
Exactly.
it
That
is.
would really help. Yeah.
And if I also want to remind you again, if some sections are blank, it's
It's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Don't feel pressured because now
Yeah.
I don't want someone to try to plot it and you don't have a
I don't
name and
have
you're like,
it.
I don't know who it
My
is.
business is
It's
failing.
fine. Okay. Last question.
Can cultural differences affect the DMU?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think so. I think how do I answer this without going to...
I can give another practical example.
Please do. Thank you. I was really stuck. So yes, that's very welcome.
You guys can fight me on this, and I really want to see the comments, but I think that baby formula probably doesn't do as well in African countries. And the reason for that is that African mothers are probably higher up on the list of women who are going to encourage their daughters to breastfeed.
I agree.
And Omugo is tough. They will come and they will put your boob in the baby's mouth. Like, you're not going to buy formula. So that's an example.
They're going to knock on your door and they say, baby's hungry. And
baby's hungry. I'm like, please, I beg. Fed is best.
That's actually
so that's one
good example of cultural differences. It makes a lot of sense. I experienced it firsthand. I wasn't forced, but I was heavily encouraged. Yeah, which
a Nigerian way of saying forcing, but yes.
Okay, baby formula. Interesting. Any other practical examples of what can affect the decision-making unit? I like that example so much. I don't know how to top it.
Nigerian parents are very big on not following peer pressure. So your friend has this. If your friend jumps off a cliff, will you jump off a cliff?
Okay.
Thereby disrupting the natural flow of influencing in children. Okay. That's another cultural example.
So your decision-making unit is automatically affected.
It is.
It's also heavily now on the parent, on the mother.
It is.
In fact, for children, you would say culturally in Africa, decision-making unit is heavy on the mom. And I wonder how culturally in other parts of the world, what the other influences of a child's decision-making units are. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because another thing, if you say the States, for example, they go back from maternity quicker.
Yes, they do.
So I wonder what other influences. So is the school now part of the child's, the cultural influence? But anyway, we can be here. This is a whole rabbit hole.
I didn't even think about I just started thinking about religion, and I was like, whew.
That's actually another cultural difference. Religion affects a lot of decision-making units here. Oh my God. There's so many things people don't buy. Even if I think of my... Oh my God. I have one very interesting example. I had a very good kitchen assistant. He was so good. I actually was so convinced this guy would become a chef. I was going to give him 2-3 years. Every 6 months, before you can join us, he was good. We had done his test. He was doing his test away from like customer cooking, of course. 1 week, we're like, we really like this boy. Yeah. So we want to hire you now. You have to do your food handler's test. He refuses. Why can we not take your blood and just check? He refuses again. We ask, like, guys, I spent 3 weeks, like, patiently asking him, we'll be patient. What is it? At first, I thought it was religion. Then I didn't know if it was, like, cultural. Because, you know, some cultures and religions,
funny
they don't, they're
blood,
funny. There's a bit of diabolic, it's a bit awkward.
Yes.
And at some point, after a month passes, I can't wait anymore. I say, we can't hire you. And he only came back 6 months later. He only just came back apologizing, saying that he has not just a natural fear of needles. When he was young, the pastor had said something about how he should never in any workplace be poked with a needle. So where do we go from here? Like, so he didn't even tell me that. If he did tell me that, maybe we could have done a whole education on sharing the reason why. Like, trust me, this is actually for your job. The kind of, if you're going to go down a kitchen job, you actually have to be comfortable with this. So that just reminded me of how like culture actually has
it absolutely does. It absolutely does. You might even find that your service or product in Nigeria does better abroad simply because maybe they're more receptive or less culturally influenced by and that's also something you guys can look into. If you have a product that's exportable, also think about how to market it in a different country.
I was going to, when I started the house, I wanted a black building and I wanted everyone to know that the house was the black building. When I went to one of my egmons, like one of my older mentors, he told me he would never walk into it.
Yes, I could
he
see
literally
that a mile
told
away.
me I would never come. And I said, well, he goes, you want me to walk into black building? I cracked up. But just to let you know how much culture does affect the decision-making unit for sure. Because that did affect me. I never painted it black. I painted it gray instead. Oh, no. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you found this episode very helpful, make sure to share it with a friend or 2 or 3 or 4.
Or 10, please.
10 works.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on all platforms and YouTube so you can watch our beautiful faces as we take you through the journey of Totally on Brand. We have more juicy topics coming up, and we can't wait to gist with you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.